But this year, the Midlands Reading Consortium will be active in 17 schools and 8 school districts, and we're really excited about it. We're celebrating our 15-year anniversary this year. We had an event a few weeks ago to commemorate those 15 years. And over that time, the Midlands Reading Consortium has served over 5,000 students and been present in over 30 schools. And so we're very proud of that. We're very excited about existing for another 15 years. So really, really looking forward to it. Everybody on our staff, which I'll introduce in a minute, or who will introduce themselves, we're all in new roles. Della Brooks has been in our staff for 30 years, but even she is in a new role this year. So there's lots of positive and great energy. So here's an agenda for today. Obviously you're hearing from me right now. You'll hear from Della, Deja, and Tiffany, as well as our AmeriCorps who have been brought on this year. So with that, go ahead and advance the slide, please. So again, my name is Jabari Bodrick. I serve as Director of Education and Resiliency, and so I work directly with our Midlands Reading Consortium, our Resilient Midlands Initiative, and our Young Men United program that will be hopefully starting in the very near future. Della, Tiffany, and Deja, could you please introduce yourself?
My name is Della Brooks, and I am the Community Relationship Manager. I'm pretty sure that all of you have gotten many emails from me, but that's okay. Even though it says E.E. Taylor, Meadowfield, and Sheridan as my schools, I will only be at E.E. Taylor. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Tiffany Johnson, and I am the Community Resiliency Coordinator, and I will tell you what that means later.
Hi, everyone. I am Deja Vaughn, and I am the Midlands Reading Consortium Operations Manager. I oversee the day-to-day operations of the program and help our AmeriCorps members facilitate direct service within our schools and furthering the mission of MRC. I am the school liaison for Sand Hills, St. Matthews K-8, and Congaree Elementary. I know it has Wood on here. That's another AmeriCorps member who will be introduced. Her name is Liz.
All right. So I know Courtney is on the call. Courtney, could you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, hi, I'm Courtney Raven, and I will be the liaison for Harbison West, Seven Oaks, and Riverbank Elementary Schools.
Thank you for that. And Courtney is one of our returners, so we're definitely happy for her to return. She does fantastic work here at the United Way of the Midlands. Kayla and Nicole are out in schools right now, so they won't be here on the call, but you can see the schools that they'll be working with under their names. We can just go ahead and advance the slide. Glenda, could you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, good evening. I'm Glenda Menace, and I'm the school liaison for Arden and Hyde Park. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Glenda. We appreciate that. And as you said, Elizabeth's on the call as well?
She is not on the call.
Okay, all right. Well, we have Shanice and Elizabeth, who are also some of our wonderful AmeriCorps. They are an unbelievable part of this program to help us continue to get into more and more schools. I neglected to mention earlier that we are in Calhoun County for the first time ever in the program's existence, and we're also in Lex 4 for the first time, Lex 3, excuse me. And Deja oversees those two new school districts. With that, I will pass it on to Della Brooks.
Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you today with this MRC orientation. I'm going to talk about some of the volunteer expectations that you will need to follow once you get started with your students and in the schools. And some of these may be like, why is she sharing that? But all of these are important. So be sure that you've completed the process. With all of you on the call, obviously you've completed the process on the MRC side as far as your application to volunteer and also the approval of your background check. Be sure that you complete the application and the background check for the district in which you have signed up for. And if you have any questions about that, please let us know, okay? Also with attendance, We encourage you to attend orientations such as this. Also, any other workshops that may deal with literacy and strategies that will help you with your student to be more engaging. We encourage you. We know that life happens, but if at all possible, the ones that you can attend. Also, be flexible. Be flexible with the MRC staff, be flexible with the staff at the school and with your student, because we know that things happen. At the school, we know that things happen with students and things happen with us as well. So, and we'll be flexible with you as well. And be prompt. I wonder if I can make this any bigger. By showing up on time for your scheduled reading session. We know again that life happens. Just be sure to let your liaison know, or someone at the school, preferably the teacher, if you're going to be like running late or you can't make your scheduled time, because the school has a schedule and they pick certain times for these students to be available to get with you. Be dependable again. Like I said, just notify your liaison or someone at the school whether not you can attend. And the schools are very flexible as well. Like if you can't come during your scheduled time, let's say it's a Monday at 8 o'clock and something happens, the school is very flexible. Try to give like at least 24-hour notice that you won't be in attendance, and you may possibly get to still go that week during that week, but at a different time and on a different day. So also confidentiality, as you're beginning to build relationships with these students, be careful not to share anything that happens in your sessions outside of the session, unless it's with someone at the school or with your liaison. Don't share about a student's progress or lack of progress, or about something personal about a student that you're getting with a neighbor or a friend or family, because you don't know who knows who. So we just want to keep that intact and keep it confidential to protect yourself, the student, and the school as far as with that. Again, just be patient. Be patient with us, the MRC staff. Be patient with your student, and be patient with what's going on at the school. Also, with communication, ask us questions. Please reach out to us. We all want this program to succeed. So please, there's no such thing as a dumb question. Let me say that again. There's no such thing as a dumb question. I know a lot of you are new. We want you to feel like you're not out there by yourself. We're all in this together. So you can email us, call us, or whatever you need to do, reaching out to your liaison. That's why we're here. We're here to give you support, and we're in this together. And protecting privacy, and this is protecting the student's privacy and also your privacy. Do not give your student, because you guys are going to be building relationships, and they'll be like, what's your email? I can email you, something, or I can give you a call. That's a no. That's a no. We don't want you to have any of their personal information, and we don't want the students to have any of your personal information. So with that, be sure not to share your phone number, your email address, your home address, or anything like that with a student. Okay? So be a positive role model. I feel like I'm talking to the choir, because with you just signing up to be an MRC volunteer, you already know that you have something to give back to these students. A positive attitude, just being able to relate to the students and giving them positive feedback. Closure is if, again, life happens, I can't say it enough, and you end up moving or changing jobs with a new schedule, and you find out that you can't continue with MRC, that's okay. But just let us know and let your student know. We've had some incidences where volunteers just kind of disappeared and a student was left hanging. We already don't know what's going on with these students, and we don't want to add more on them as far as separation anxiety or anything like that with a new friend that they just made. So if at all possible, just when you find out if that's not going to happen, you're not able to do the school year, just reach out to us and let us know, because we might be able to put somebody else in the place to be with that student as well. Official MRC reader. If you and everyone on this call has gone through the process, but we just put this out there because we've had some incidences that happen where somebody was not an official MRC volunteer, but they represented themselves as such. And we just don't want any confusion with the schools or with the students that we're serving. We want to be sure that the students that we are serving are getting what they need. But we just want to do diligence. We just, if you don't have an MRC student or went through the process, you're not an official MRC volunteer. And also bring a smile. Bring a smile when you come to each session. I can't see many of y'all on the screen, but I know that you guys have a big, beautiful smile, and just take those to the sessions, because you just don't know how that can make that student's day. Okay. Also, a lot of you received, and I thank you for, I know I sent it out late, the code of ethics. But you all were so quick in responding back and sending me the code of ethics back. And this is kind of something new that we've incorporated into MRC. And we see it as something that's important to put value on the program, as far as holding accountable requirements as far of our volunteers as they get with their students. So this will protect you, it will protect us, MRC, it will protect the school as well. So the first one is to protect volunteers and participants. At no time shall you leave a student unsupervised. Oh, that's not the first one. I'm sorry. You're not to be alone with a student, where the student cannot be observed by others. And what I mean by that is, even though the school is going to designate a space for you to get with your student, be sure that you abide by that. There have been instances, and no fault of the volunteer at all. There was no malice intent, but they were out of sight, as far as others that were like passing by could see the volunteer and the student. And you never want to put yourself in that kind of situation where anything is questionable. So we just ask at all times that you be in the sight of where others can observe you while you're with your student. And in saying that, never leave your student unsupervised. While you have the student, when you sign the student out, when a student is in your care, you're responsible for that student. So don't leave that student unsupervised. Like the next one says, about, don't let the student go to the restroom by themselves, because that would be unsupervised. And when you do take the student to the restroom, be sure to stand in the doorway. Do not go in the restroom with the student. That's just to be sure that there's nothing questionable on the volunteer or the student's behalf. So we just try to really do our due diligence as far as keeping everybody safe. Volunteers should not abuse students or use corporal punishment of any kind. We had to put that in there. This includes physical abuse, verbal abuse, sexual abuse, mental abuse, or neglect. And I don't feel like that will happen, but we do need to put that in there, because we have volunteers that are very cognitive as far as just really wanting to serve our students and helping them succeed. And that's what we rely on. Volunteers will respect the students' right not to be touched in ways that make them feel uncomfortable. We know COVID did a number on us. And before COVID, we're so used to that personal touch and hugging and all that kind of stuff. We try to be very careful with that, because we don't know what a student is going through as far as us practicing safe touch. So, you could do pats on the back, high fives, or, things like that, but don't ever initiate it. You can't control if a student comes running at you and, give you a hug, you know, embrace the hug, but, politely, back the student away so it won't, be lingering or anything like that. Volunteers to use positive techniques and guidance, including redirection, positive reinforcement, and encouragement, rather than being, competitive, comparison, criticizing. And I know that won't happen with our volunteers, because you're there to help a student succeed. And we know that being competitive and comparing and criticism, we know that a student doesn't succeed that way. So we want to be sure that we're enforcing that positive reinforcement, which I am definitely assured that will happen with you all. Also, volunteers will respond to the student with respect and consideration and treat all students equally, regardless of gender, race, religion, sexual identity, or culture. A lot of these students that you get with may not look like your grandchild. They may not learn as quick as your grandchild. They may not look like your neighbor's child or anything like that. These, a lot of times it would be students, like it says here, of a different religion, a different culture, a different race that you may have never encountered. But we do ask that you respect that student's identity. Okay. And two, think about what you can learn from each other as well. So embrace that. Volunteers will not give gifts unless it's an educational gift, but we don't want the students to think that the program is about getting gifts. We want the students to know that this is a program to help give them support in their learning so that they can get a love for reading. Like I did with the first session, I do want to share this story, and forgive me for staff for me saying it again. But we talk about this each time we do orientation as far as not giving gifts. To some people, it's like, what's the big deal? The big deal is other students see what one volunteer gives another student. And one of my volunteers, even though we had talked about this, he gave his little first grader as a red sports car for a gift, had it in a nice gift bag and everything. It was beautiful. It was a little Corvette and everything, right? And he said, Miss Della, I hope you don't mind, but I got so-and-so a gift. I got him a little red sports car. I said, no, you didn't. He's like, well, I told him not to take it out the bag and not to tell his friends about it. At the end of the day, he did not take home a red sports car because someone had taken it. He was crushed. This first grader was crushed. And that's why we ask, we don't want to add more on the students. We don't want to add more grief or loss or anything like that with a student by giving them things that are not educational. Who's going to steal a book? Who's gonna take a book or something educational from a student versus a red sports car? So that's why we, that's why we incorporate that in as far as the gifts. And again, we don't want the students to think it's about them getting presents, but about helping them with their education. What I had kind of talked about earlier about volunteers not having no private interaction through phones, exchanging phone numbers or social media or any kind of communication device with your student, not unless you're in session. Should you be on a computer together or a handheld device, but not sharing any of that personal information. Also, volunteers should not use or possess or be under the influence of alcohol or illegal drugs while working with their student in the program. I think that kind of says what it says right there. Also, volunteers should not use profanity or inappropriate jokes or share intimate details of one's personal life with their student. Just kind of like what we talked about earlier as far as, confidentiality and protecting your privacy on both parts. You don't want the student to be able to use something against you as well. Volunteers are required to report any suspicion of child abuse to the front office. Like I was saying before, as you start developing relationships with these students, they're going to get more comfortable with you. And they're going to tell you things that to them is just normal. But to you, it's a red flag. So be sure as you're getting with your student to be attentive also as far as what they're saying. When you become a volunteer with a student, you become a mandate reporter. And what that just means is if you hear anything with what was said as far as, child abuse or anything like that, and, Tiffany can talk about that later with resiliency, but you are a mandate reporter and it's your responsibility to report that to the school. And actually, you got to report it to the school before you leave campus. If you leave campus and think about what a student said, it loses validity. As far as they don't incur, you can't go back and then report it. You got to report it while you're on site and before you leave the school. Okay. All right, so that's my part, and I'm going to turn it over to Dejavon. And thank you all so much.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me? Or evening now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. All right. Give me one moment. So Della has talked about, code of ethics and then expectations as a volunteer. So let's say you're going through your sessions and things are going well, or maybe they're not. But what's important is that you are tracking your sessions. So I'm going to show you our volunteer session tracking form, which you will go and track in whether you meet with your student or not. And I'll go over the different prompts with it. Just give me one moment to get that pulled up. All right, do we see the tracking form now?
Yes.
I do.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so this is our volunteer session tracking form. You will receive this link from your MRC liaison, school liaison. So they'll send this to you at the beginning. I do encourage you to bookmark this or, keep this somewhere where you're able to go back and record your sessions. I know some volunteers like to wait a month or maybe 2-3 weeks to come back to this and input your sessions, but just make sure that you are doing this consistently so that this helps MRC with our data and documentation. As we know, this program works best when you are consistently reading with your student for 15 or 16 sessions, and this just helps us to see that and assess the data there. So once you receive this link and you've engaged with your student, you'll put your volunteer name or your name and your email address for confirmation. You'll put your session date here, and it brings up a calendar for you to choose. And then you have 4 prompts over to the right. So you will either click yes, you've engaged with your student, and it'll lead you to other prompts, whether you were in person or virtual. And then right here, which is an important thing to take note of, is the assigned student number. The assigned student number is also a number that you will need to keep up with throughout the academic year when you're engaging with your student. You will also receive that information from your MRC school liaison. And if you forget it or lose track of it, they will always have that information for you. But once again, wherever you keep notes or reminders, make sure you're keeping your assigned student number. That way we can keep up with the students and how many sessions they are being engaged with as well. So you'll put the student number there. Of course, leave any notes on the session. 2 is that.
Deja, can you make it larger? You're having individuals requesting they can't see it.
Or put the link in the chat, please.
Yeah, that would be great. Let me put the link in. Sorry about that. So the link is in the chat if you want to pull it up to see the prompts a bit better and what I'm talking about. But I'll still keep going through it. So the number 2, the prompt is that you engage with another student, which sometimes happen. So you'll make sure you get that student's first name, then last name isn't necessary, and then the classroom that student was in. Number 3 is that you did a classroom reading. Some of our schools may have different themes or holidays where they'll request or ask for volunteers to come and read to a whole classroom. And in that case, you'll put here the classroom that you read to, so is the teacher's last name, and the number of students in the class. So you'll either ask the teacher or make sure you count the number of students before leaving that classroom reading. And then number 4 will be that no, you did not engage with a student today. The prompts being or asking why your student or you weren't available, and include other if it was something else that you'd like to take a note of. So this any notes session is a chance for you to give any feedback, tips, or to talk about anything that may be working well or not. When you do put this in here, I'm able to give this to your MRC school liaison. And of course, you can let us know down here, yes, you'd like to contact your liaison about the session itself. But if not, like leaving notes and giving feedback is always encouraged to help make the program better, or to talk with teachers, school liaisons on how we can make the program better for the students. Are there any questions on this form? Can everyone see it through the link that I sent?
Yes, no questions.
Yes.
No questions? Great. Okay, here we go. So the next thing that I'll be talking about is one of our platforms that we have that will act as another resource when you're working with your student. We know that this program, you'll be working with a student with a physical book, hard copy book, where you'll sit down and either engage with your student reading to them, or they'll be reading to you, and any questions, comprehension, paperwork, things that you want to do after that. But this platform, WordForce, which is a literacy adventure for K-2 students, is another resource that you're able to use to help build on those foundational literacy skills. WordForce is a partnership with Everfi and Truist, and they gave us to act as a resource, like I said, to help the students. And it includes 15 interactive games that provide other learning opportunities for our students, with some of the key items you see here: phonics, spelling, vocabulary, sight words, and reading comprehension. Okay, and what you see right here, and I hope you can see it and it's not too small, but this is what the game will look like. It's very engaging. The theme of this is supposed to be superheroes saving the world. So when they log on, they'll see this awesome game that they've come up with that is supposed to be really engaging for the student. They're able to choose a helper, so they can go through and customize what their character will look like. And once again, it's just adding. I don't think anyone was asking a question, but that is adding another element of engagement to the WordForce platform. An example of what a lesson will look like: in lesson 1, it starts with sprouting sounds, beginning and ending sounds, and it'll give you a synopsis of what this session is going to be about, key topics, learning objectives. And as you can see over here to the right with the game, you see the superhero who is, doing an action after this child has successfully completed what they were working on and being able to save the world, making it one step closer to saving the world, being a superhero. So in the case of this, the WordForce is a browser that the student will just log on when they bring their Chromebook, which is what I should mention, that the students will have to bring their Chromebook when they're working with this platform. So your MRC school liaisons and the teachers will know about this in advance. They'll have the usernames and passwords that the students will bring to their session, but they'll be given generic student names or usernames and password, and they'll log into everfi.net, which, like I said, it is just a browser internet page. You won't have to download an app or do anything extra, but the login, and this is what it'll look like. The login here, username, password. It'll bring them to their student dashboard, which looks like this, and they're able to start their session. What's good about this is that it saves their progress, so they can come back to where they left off at if they weren't able to finish the previous lesson. And it just builds off of each other as they keep going through the 15 interactive games. When it comes to usernames and password, you as volunteers will be given a login card that you're able to keep and maybe in your volunteer folder. So you'll have access to the username and the password in case the student forgets. And of course, the teacher will have it too and know in advance ahead of time to make sure the student brings their Chromebook and make sure that they have access to be able to log in. Another thing is that We see this working, the MRC team and us, we see this working as an incentive towards the end of some sessions. I know some volunteers like to keep it with the books and work, you know, in the traditional way of engaging with a student with a physical book. But some sessions may not go like that. The students may not feel engaged or encouraged, you know, during that time. And so using this WordForce platform will help you to help them stay encouraged and still engaged in your sessions. So maybe 15 minutes reading a physical book, you reading to them reading to you, and the next 15 minutes being that they interact in this game or on this platform. And this is supposed to act as an independent literacy skill to help them and as they work on those things. And you would be a person there to help to guide them, you know, if they're struggling or missing out on something as they grow throughout the sessions. Are there any questions on this at all?
Deja, they want to, how often and when should we use WordForce? Or the child have a device for it?
So yes, your child should have a device for it. They have Chromebooks that they receive. And like I said, as you're conversing with your MRC school liaison, depending on how often you see fit to use the device or to use this platform, like I said, 15 minutes, maybe reading a physical hard copy book, the next 15 minutes using this platform, or maybe a couple of sessions, you just stick with a hard copy book. And then maybe a couple sessions you use this platform during your whole session.
Okay.
Or you use it as an incentive if you find that your student during that particular session isn't as engaged or doesn't really feel encouraged to read an actual book, which may come up. And so to answer your question about the Chromebook, yes, they will have devices and the teachers will know ahead of time when the student is being taken out during the session to bring the Chromebook.
I have a question.
Mhm.
Will the activities with the game, with WordForce, will they at all be related to what has been read in the book, or is this a separate type of involvement or engagement that will encourage just the basic reading skills?
That's a great question. And yeah, it is a separate piece from whatever books you guys may be reading during that session. Any other questions? And one that came up earlier is measuring the progress of your student or just logging in so you know what they'll be engaging in before the session so you're prepared. We do have generic usernames and passwords that we're able to send you as volunteers if you'd like to get ahead of the game, log in. One, measure the progress of your actual student because you'll know their username and password and see where they're at. And it'll just be good to see throughout the academic year the progress that your student has made, and then also just to see what the lesson may be about beforehand. Can't see the chat. I'm not sure if anyone is putting anything in the chat.
Will the child bring one book or more than that? Are we allowed to bring books as well once we get to know the child interests?
Absolutely. So some of our schools have a process where the teachers have that extra time and capacity to fill a backpack or a drawstring bag with books that are the interests of the student or things that they could work on a bit more in that bag. So you'll have, you know, the resources there that the teacher knows for a fact the student could use extra help with, or, you know, MRC has books in the library here at the United Way building that you're able to come and look through if you'd like to choose a different book on your own, or even at the school's library. That's also a great resource. They're always willing to lend out books before you actually go into your sessions. But also your MRC school liaisons who has been introduced on the PowerPoint are creating folders and have created folders that you'll have and potentially doing orientations with the school and liaisons. So when you go in there, you'll know exactly what you need for that actual school and all the different resources that they're going to be giving you before you begin your actual sessions. Sure, if there's any other questions, but if not, and other questions do come up, you'll have, and if your MRC school liaison has not reached out to you yet, they will, and that will be the person you'll be in communication with for any questions that come up if they do and you need more time to marinate on this. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Tiffany.
Thank you.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tiffany Johnson, and I am the Community Resiliency Coordinator. What does that mean? Can somebody move my slide for me? Just to give you a grasp of the history, you guys can read through that right now. But my job is to get out in the community and help train the trainers and help train anyone who works with children and families who have trauma. So I am currently in 6 different counties: Richland, Lexington, Newberry, Orangeburg, Calhoun, and Fairfield. So my job is to help get into these counties and help the trainers, help those individuals who are working with children to identify the trauma, address the trauma, and then find resources within their community that could assist them with the trauma. As Della stated earlier on the code of ethics about do not, you don't know what the child's going through. And that's a true statement. You have no clue what this child is going through. So just being more mindful when you are with the children. Next slide, please.
What happened and what I have to do.
So what I do is I am coming in and I am using ACEs. And ACEs is identifying and working with the trauma that happened to everyone 18 and under. But just because you're 18 now does not mean that that trauma is over. There's more work that's have to be placed with that type of trauma. You, if you are willing, therapy, finding someone to talk to, finding resources in your community that can address it. So what I want to say is when you guys are working with the students, be mindful that they may not only be dealing with stuff at school, there's stuff that's going on at home, because at 2:30, 3 o'clock, when the buses leave and they're going back in the house, you don't know what they're facing. So little Johnny might be coming to school and you've been talking with little Johnny and little Johnny is not talking to you, or little Johnny is looking all over the place when you're trying to read to them, or they're having temper tantrums, or they're not dressed up to the standard of your part, but there's some background things that could be going on. Johnny mom might have multiple children. Johnny mom doing everything she can to keep a roof over their head, and she just don't have time to assist them with homework. So be patient. But as Della stated earlier with the mandated reporting, if there is something that is out of place and you have that gut feeling that this is not correct, please report it to the MRC liaison, the school liaison, or go up to the front and have a conversation with the secretary, but report it. Now, with ACEs, we're talking about a lot of different things that could and can happen. We're talking about a parent being removed from the home because they're in jail. We're talking about physical and mental abuse, as well as domestic violence. There's a lot of things that can be placed there. So my job is to help identify it and train it. Another portion of my position is getting out into the community and exposing our youth to juvenile justice jeopardy. What is juvenile justice jeopardy? Juvenile justice jeopardy focuses on school-aged children, middle and high school. So if you have a friend who's like, oh, that's great that you're over there reading 30 minutes a week, but I don't want to do little people, send them my way. I'm looking for volunteers. And so the way juvenile justice jeopardy is, I'm teaching them law. We get groups of kids, students together, and I take a lawyer and I take a police officer out and we teach the law. Unfortunately, due to a lot of the events that have happened in the last few years, social media, news, some of our youth are very, very terrified of police officers. And it does not help that sometimes families do use the police officers as a scare mechanism to get that child to do what they want. Oh, if you don't clean up your room, I'm going to call the cops on you. So when they see the cop, they associate law enforcement with a bad behavior. At some point in all of our lives, we have had an encounter with law enforcement, good or bad. You lock your keys in your car and you on the side of the highway, you're going to call 911 first, or 911 is going to pull over. So it's just getting the police officers more engaged out in the community as well, and letting the students see, hey, there are good humans, and this is that's just their job. My other goal is to get parents into the room. The wall is free, girl. Running around for 90 minutes with your child means absolutely nothing. But if I could get a set of parents in a room and teach them the law, guess what's going to happen? That's going to be conversation at the table, and it's going to keep going and going and going until it has burst open in the community. So if you know anyone who's interested in juvenile justice, please let me know. Right now, I'm going to show you just a little testimony. Over the summer, I had the honor of going out into the community, and we went to a summer camp, and we actually played a game with the students, and they loved it. So we had them do some testimonies. So I'll be back.
Today I had the pleasure of speaking with some kids about their rights, about the law, giving them a clearer understanding of what they can do and what they can't do. They seem to really enjoy it. They seem to really catch on to what we were telling them, and that's very important because, you know, a lot of kids these days grow up with the incorrect understanding of law enforcement, an incorrect understanding of the law. So to be able to hear it from professionals and to be able to hear it from people that are actually doing it day to day, I think it's stuck, and I'm looking forward to doing it again. Looking forward to being more of a voice to these kids and giving them a better understanding of what they can and can't do and why they can and can't do it.
It was fun to learn about things that I never knew, and in the future I will use those things, and maybe one day I'll teach my kids if I have any.
I believe that it is very important that children, especially the younger they are, know what their rights are, know how to encounter police officers, know that they're allowed to remain silent, that they're allowed to ask for a lawyer like me or someone else, just so that they don't get into situations where they don't know what to do, or that they're scared, or that they think that they have to do something that they don't want to do. That's why juvenile justice is so important, and we're just happy to, you know, explain it to them.
So what can you do to help me? Invite me to your church. Invite me to your community meetings. Invite me where you know there are going to be people there that's motivated, that knows the law, that want to teach the law, that can actually, if you could turn on a computer, you can come on over here and volunteer. That's just how easy it is. I will call you and I'll say, hey, I'm going here today. Do you want to go? And you'll say no. And I'll say, okay. And then I'm going to go to the next person. And I'm going to ask them the same thing. I am going to be having monthly trainings. And we have some trainings coming up soon. But just invite me out. Request me to be in your community. I don't care if it's 10 kids. That's 10 more children that I have not talked to or had a police officer or a lawyer come and talk to them. So if you know anybody in any of those 6 counties who want to assist, who want me to come out, invite me. I'm actually nice. Thank you.
We have a question in the chat, Tiffany.
What type of technology or other effects are needed to facilitate? All you need, Miss Regina, is to learn how to, if you could turn the computer on, that's all I need from you. If you could turn the computer on and you can sit in a room with teenagers for 90 minutes, the rest of it is under the water for you. And to be honest with you, we get so engaged. We have role playing. Our lawyers are amazing. I'm telling you, they're running around the room, they're crawling across the floor, hiding from the kids. They get so engaged to the point sometimes I have to tell them, hey, I need y'all to tone it down some. It's not the teenagers, it's them. So if you could turn the computer on, and if you can't turn the computer on, I'm gonna teach you that, and you're ready to go. Following up from the previous question, we do not have Wi-Fi in our clubhouse. Do we have do you Ooh. So I don't provide a hotspot, but I do have quote unquote a street version of it, meaning that it's on hard paper, so we could still play it. Wi-Fi or not, we could play it. So that's not going to be an issue. But that is something that I would need to know in advance so I could be prepared to have the game printed out. Any other questions for me before?
No.
All right. Thank you guys. I hope
Thank you.
that you guys have a great year.
Thank you, Tiffany. So we're just going to look, we have a couple of trainings, and what I had said earlier, as far as, try to make as many of the trainings as possible. We have the mandated reporting training, October 10th. I had talked about that a little bit earlier, and Tiffany alluded to that as well. And that will be here at the United Way office. We're also in January we're going to have a childhood literacy workshop. And that will be here at United Way. You will be notified as far as those trainings in advance, far in advance.
Okay.
What are some other things that you can do to help? Well, I want to applaud and thank each of you for your heart and your willingness to be able to get your desire to be with a student one-on-one. You or your church or your business where you work at can do a school supply drive. The schools are always in need of school supplies for their students. You could do book drives. We do have an Amazon wish list from the schools, books that can be purchased. The classroom readings, like what Deja was talking about earlier, is you read into an entire class. A lot of those schools actually have themed holidays, or they just might have something special going on at the school where they desire a reader for that day. Also, summer reading camps. When MRC is not in session during the summer, there are schools that we do partner with to do summer reading camps. We had one at Harbison West this past summer, and the volunteers loved it. It was awesome. And this also helps students to be engaged over the summer and not lose a lot of education awareness during the summer. Also, you can donate funds to UA.org/donate if you want to provide funds, and we can, buy some book supplies, some school supplies or books or other things that the schools might desire as well. Questions? I heard there was some in the chat.
The first one is, will there be a virtual option for the trainings?
Oh, yeah.
As far as the mandated one, I'm a true believer that you learn better when you're in person, but if needed, I will do a pre-recorded. I will get with communications and figure out how to do a pre-recorded one that can be given to Della and Deja them to place in you guys' folder. The next question was, where do we get the folders?
Your liaison will have a folder for you. At the beginning of the year when you start, it will have just some different strategies in the folder. It will have an All About Me activity, which you can do with your students so you can learn about each other. And that just sets the year off in a great way as far as getting to know each other. So it'll be different things in the folders that you will be provided.
Okay.
When do we start?
Well, we're looking to start October 3rd, or at least that week. Some schools might be kind of staggered, but that's kind of what we're looking at right now. So we're trying to get everything done so that we'll be able to stay on point with that.
Della, can you talk about the background checks from the different school districts?
Yes. Like we said earlier, I think we're working with 8 school districts, and all their processes are different. I do not have MRC doesn't have anything to do with how the school districts do their application process and their background checks, but we do try to stay in touch to know enough as far as to be able to let the volunteer know. In the emails that I've sent, I've indicated, who to reach out to at the district or the school, as far as if you haven't heard anything back in like a week or so. But I was told at one school it would take them about 2 weeks to even process the background check for the volunteer. So it varies really. It really does. It varies by district as far as how long the process takes. And I know that might not be a great answer. I am so sorry. I'm working with districts that are still working with paper copies. We're working with districts that you do the online application. So it varies as far as how long it takes. I am in there with the districts and, you know, trying to work with them with our MRC so we can get our volunteers started. So I'm trying to do my due diligence as far as getting what we need from the districts as well. But remember what I said earlier in the PowerPoint, being flexible and being patient with us. So.
Okay, so are you able to fill all the slot teachers have to help? That's Susan. I'm assuming she's asking where all the MRC slots fill, or are the teachers gonna help with the MRC reading? And this is gonna turn off on us in like 2 minutes.
Well, the slots that have been filled is how many volunteers are coming through. And we feel according to that. I don't know if that answered that question or not. I wasn't sure as far as. But the teachers are there to assist when you're there at the school with your student, though. Are there any more questions?
The other question was, can I bring the form to you in person? But Jabari answered that in the chat and said yes.
Yes, you can bring it in person or you can email it to me by scanning and then emailing it to me.
That's it for the chat.
Okay. All right. Well, again, the team wants to thank everyone for being on this call tonight. Sorry for some of the faux pas that happened, but thank you for your mercy and your grace. We thank you for a wonderful school year that's about to happen, and please reach out to us with any questions or concerns.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Good night.